faculty in Life Science 3 on the first floor of Life Science 3. And then I was in Life Science 2 when I first started, but then I had the opportunity. So Micro had some space left over in Lindegren when Lindegren was the only science building. So I took over that space because it was a better environment for my animals.
Got it, yeah.
So it's kind of nice because I don't get bothered by anybody, but it's also kind of not nice because I don't get bothered by anybody. So it's sort of a catch-22.
Yeah.
And you said you're in Life Science. Are you in Life Science 2 or 3?
Yeah, Life Science 2 on the second floor of psychology.
Got it. Yeah, I work sometimes with Michael Hyland, who's in the basement.
Hi, Patrick. Hi, Scott.
Good morning.
Songli, good morning. Mike, I saw Mike there. Ni-chan.
Good morning.
I know we 1 minute before we can start.
And also, Jeff emailed you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he can make it today.
Yeah, I think he sent us the email. Thank you. Jenny is connecting. How are you doing, Jenny?
Hi, very good. Hello.
Good to see you. Yeah. I know we were on the budget committee last year, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so we're waiting for Marcus. Hopefully he can make it. I know Elaine could not make it. She will be late. She might be 1 hour late. I think Song-hee, you know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is Joe gonna be here for UAPC?
Yeah, Joe, yeah. And I think Joe might be. So Joe, good morning, Marcus.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, it's a time. So I would like the meeting to get started, the call to order. So Mike, maybe you just check, help us to the roll call. Mike, are you? Mike?
I'm sorry, I lost my lost track of where my screen was. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, Yuting, did you ask me to do roll call?
Yes. So I think so far everybody's here. We're waiting for Joe, and Elaine will be late because she has a conflict of a schedule with another commitment. And for the undergraduate education and policy committee, hopefully Joe will join us. And I know this committee is voting for another co-chair, Amy Bro. Am I right? Song-hee, right?
Yes, right. Just 10 minutes ago, it's done.
Good. And also for the faculty status and welfare committee, and you guys are also in the middle of voting for the co-chair, Jennifer Sherry, am I right?
Yeah, it's still a process of voting, but she has lots of support. So no, she will be co-chair. So we'll be finalizing the name soon.
And did you say Amy is still in progress, or she is now co-chair officially?
Amy, yeah. Go ahead.
Amy Bro, is that how many votes have you received?
I think 7 or 8. I kind of remember. So it's already decided. So Amy Bro is decided for co-chair, of undergraduate education policy committee. And then for faculty status and welfare, Jennifer Sherry is in the process of voting, but she will be soon.
Okay,
So
good.
we'll get all co-chairs.
So in terms of attendance, almost everybody here, we just wait for Joe. Hopefully he can join us. And
If he doesn't show up, I can sort of act as proxy for that committee since.
okay, thank you. Thank you. Now you have a copy of the minutes for April 6th, am I right? You have an electronic copy?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good. So any correction before, is that accurate or any change, modification or accuracy? I know, Marcus, I was not there for another commitment on that day. So I will really yield to or defer to those who were there. Oh,
They look fine to me.
yeah, good. Good morning, Joe.
Morning. Hello, everyone again.
Yeah, good to see you again. Great. Okay, we're talking about the minutes from April 6th. Faculty Senate Executive Council minutes. I was not there. And so I would like you to check whether it's accurate. Any discussion before we have a motion?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Any second? Are you okay? You second, right?
Seconded.
Okay, any opposed? Abstain?
I'll abstain since I wasn't participating.
I'll abstain too. I wasn't on the EC at that time.
Okay, three abstains. Thank you.
I didn't attend, so.
Okay, 4 abstains. Okay, thank you.
Right, the 4 people that just joined our.
4 new members. Okay,
Mhm.
good. So minutes approved. Okay, thank you. Okay, I would like to combine number 4, number 5A together for my report. Okay, first of all, I want to especially express my appreciation and thanks to the previous officer, include Dr. Marcus Oden and Dr. Mina Grant Mina and Dr. Amber Pond. And they have done extraordinarily good job for us. And we had a transition meeting, I think last week on Thursday. Am I right, Marcus?
Yeah.
So first I had a meeting with Marcus by Zoom at 11 o'clock. So we talked about 1 hour and Marcus was very helpful to me in terms of the detail, nuances. Thank you, Marcus. I really appreciate your professional integrity and support.
You're welcome.
Okay. And also,
Mr. President, would it be in order to express a motion from the floor to express, to second that and to express the profound appreciation that I had as a first year faculty senator, as well as on the executive committee. Marcus Odom was a superb president of the faculty senate. Really, the meetings were run well. I thought everything was everything went well last year.
yes, good. I like the idea. So maybe we could have something to recognize their contribution and their excellence. Would that be okay? I think, Joe, would you like to take an initiative to work on it? If we
Sure. So would that be something that the next faculty senate could pass the resolution? Would that be appropriate? I don't know what I'm saying is appropriate.
Any of you from, especially our previous executive council member, like Scott, Bethany, and also Ni Chang.
I second that, yeah.
Is there discussion? I've never seen a resolution on a matter like this, and I wholeheartedly agree, but I really don't think it
Okay, then if it's not, if it's
worthy
if
of a
it's not,
motion or
then no, that's
resolution.
fine.
But,
If it's not- I'm
but
brand
I
new.
think we should make a big splash at our next meeting and say exactly that.
Okay, that I could go along with that.
Well, if Marcus is just a joke, if Marcus is going to retire from university, and then maybe we need to do something special. So I think in our minutes, either in our faculty senate executive council minutes, as well in our faculty senate general minutes, we should especially acknowledge their contribution and support. Would that be okay? Other than
Thank you.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
And I'll say it was a good group of officers and executive committee members last year. We had a lot of good things we worked on together. So it was a team effort. It really was.
Thank you. Thank you. So, and the first of my report is the transition meeting with both the previous president and the previous officers. And at the meeting, we talked about special election because a couple of faculty senators which should not be included, but they're still there, and we have a couple of vacancies. So Bethany is going to report there with a few minutes. Okay, I will defer to Bethany in this regard. That means special election. And then in the past few days, we, in a way, it's okay. I couldn't believe that we did it. At least we get all the standing committee chairs and co-chair elected. And first of all, my congratulations to the co-chairs of committee on committee, which is very important because they help us to conduct all the elections for different standing committees. So my thanks to Sung-Hee Lee and Ilan Jogovsky. And after the COC, committee on committee election, and both of them worked with other committees. As you know, budget committee, we elected Marcus and Jenny, you are here. Thank you very much for your willingness to serve. And for undergraduate education and policy committee, and Joe, congratulations for your continued service. And as Sung-Hee said, they are still in the middle of conducting, of electing, I think, Amy Bro, who might be the co-chair. And for the faculty status and welfare committee, and congratulations to you, Scott. Thank you very much for your continuous support. It was a great pleasure to work with you on the committee last year. I learned a lot from you guys, okay? And for the governance committee, and I want to especially thank Li Chang, and she's going to serve in the fall because Patrick, thank you, Patrick. You're going to serve in the spring because in the fall you're going to take a sabbatic. Am I right? And Jay, and today he cannot be here because of the commitment. And Jay and both Li Chang Wang and Patrick Macross are the co-chairs of governance committee. So, and also footnotes I emailed to Marcus with regard to reorganization special committee. I do not think there will be much more business. On the other hand, in the case there is anything, I still would like to invite Marcus to continue to serve as the chair of the special reorganization committee. Would that be okay with you, Marcus?
You're muted, Marcus.
Usually, I think in the resolution that was passed, the president is the chair of that committee. So I don't know, if it's possible, but I was going to state that at this point, it is a special committee, and at this point, according to operating papers, once a special committee has completed the task due or a set date is accomplished, the committee is terminated. And I don't know that there is any more for that committee at this point to do. We got the last resolution through for the last reorganization. So it may be a point that we will terminate that committee moving forward. And if we need to reappoint, we can.
Do we need to do a motion to do it? Do we need to do a motion to sunset it, or does it automatically sunset?
I just had let me pull it back up here. The operating paper says ad hoc committees may be created by the Senate to act under Senate guidance on specific matters. These committees are temporary and shall be dissolved in accord with a termination date set at their creation or upon completion of their assignment. So I think we have completed our assignment in this one. It doesn't say a process for doing so. They said just terminated. So I don't know if there's an official process for terminating the committee, or whether it just terminates because its task is completed.
I think maybe a governance committee may need to have a resolution to terminate this. Am I right?
No, that's
We
not what
need
he, that's
to,
not what he,
no.
he said. It
How the governance?
No, it's already completed. I
already
think
completed,
it
so it's
will be
So we do not need to do, we will not to do anything. That's it.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
I think it's gone.
I also suggest that if there is any last minute efforts dealing with reorg, that they're probably of such a finite nature at this point that the governance committee could probably handle it.
Hopefully, yeah.
That would be the appropriate committee, standing committee for it to go through anyway.
Okay, thank you. Very good. So for our next time report, we shouldn't list a reorganization special committee there. Good. Okay, thank you. Well, and also, you know, with regard to special election, I would defer to Bethany, and for the faculty senate directory as well as the membership update, I will ask Mike to give update. So at this point, perhaps we will, that's my general report, brief report, number 4 and number 5A. Any question for me? Okay, so I think before we move to 5B, maybe is it okay, Matt? I ask you give us an update about the membership, faculty senator membership, and the contact information update.
Yes, I have all the information I need for the current Senate membership, and I will put together an updated roster using the template that I was provided from Amber, although the difference this time will be that it will reflect the new colleges. I have not completed that yet because I prefer to wait until the special elections are over before I have those 3. I think there are 3 positions filled, and when that's done, then I will finish the roster, including the PDF picture roster. There's one that's only text, and then there's one that has pictures, and that'll be sent out. But other than those 3 positions, I've got the current roster as it stands. So
Good, thank you.
Could I request that somehow we all be given the current status of the reorg chart? It's been some time since I've actually seen it visually. And are we done with that, or are we close? I mean, even if it's a draft, I'd appreciate that and want to share that with my colleagues.
Sure.
And the other thing was, Marcus, I put in the chat, if I could get a copy of those operating papers, I'd appreciate that.
Also,
The operating
well,
papers are on
I have
the
a
website.
question.
yeah, it's on the website. You're
On
right.
the Faculty Senate page?
Yeah.
What do you mean the operating papers? Faculty Senate operating papers?
Yeah.
Jen, you talking about?
All right.
And also the reorg, if you go, easiest way is just to go to the SAU website and type in reorg. And on the Provost website, they have the latest version of the reorg, and they update it as things are approved by IBHE. So there's still several things that haven't had the IBHE approval yet, as far as I know, and they will be updated as soon as that approval occurs, and they update their chart there.
Marcus, as far as I understand, is just certain colleges have to be renamed. They have
One college, yours.
That's yours, exactly. Not that I want to rename it. I think the name is perfectly fine as is, but that's a long story.
Okay, good. Thank you, Matt. Now,
Eugene, I do think it would be useful at the next meeting, because we have so many new members, to mention the location on the website of both of those items. They're sort of foundational.
okay, good. So what I'm going to do, I have the PDF, I guess I got it last year from Marcus. And also I could send the link, both the PDF as well as the link to all the faculty senate members. Ask Matt to do so. Would that be okay? You will get a copy. Thank you.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
thank you very much, Matt, for your, I know it's a little bit, I think it's a little bit new for the new members, okay. 5B, and Bethany, would you like to give update on special election?
Sure thing. So as already mentioned, we need 3 senators, one from CALPS, one from Arts and Media, and one from the non-tenure track faculty. And so last week we sent out nominations for those positions, and we got nominations back. And we are waiting, actually we have an issue to discuss. So for 2 of those units, CALPS and NTTs, we are ready to go for a survey monkey for that election. However, for Arts and Media, one of the nominees is John Davey. And the problem with that is he's already served 2 consecutive terms on Senate, so he should need to take a year in between. However, he's now in a different college. So the question to this committee is that allowable, or because he's done 2 already within one college, that is the letter of the law, and he has to wait a year? Any ideas?
The constituency voting for him somehow different than the previous mandate he got?
So
I don't really think that should matter. I think 2 terms is 2 terms.
I agree.
I was just wondering, because colleges are being shaken up in this way and that way, whether
Complicating all the things. I sort of agree. I feel like 2 terms is 2 terms, regardless of your unit of origin. So
yeah,
I'm happy with leaving his name off. So that brings up another issue, which is then we only have 1 candidate, or 1 nominee, excuse me, for that college, which is fine. But then do we have to do a survey monkey? Do we have to do a vote if there's only 1 person on the ballot?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
yes.
All right, we will get that.
So, Bethany, do you know when the process will be completed?
Right, so we are going to, now that we have answers for these, we have the Survey Monkey set up. I think, Josh, if you'll have to maybe modify the Arts and Media if John's name is on there already. And we are ready to send that out either tonight or tomorrow with a voting date of next Monday at noon. That should give us enough time to alert the nominees that have won the position and get them all set up for the meeting, the next Faculty Senate meeting on next Tuesday.
Can I add something on this? Because when I look at the candidate, like a qualified candidate for Faculty Senate, I noticed like it's different from previous. For instance, I should not be qualified for the election because I'm already a senator, but my name is still there. For the Faculty Senate who has already been serving for 2 consecutive terms, they should not be qualified. So the list of candidates who can be elected and should be shortened so that it will be not confusing for people who are trying to recommend somebody or do something because they don't check. So
right.
In the future. Yeah.
So I was going to talk about that in a second. So right. So the call for nominees have closed, and we've gotten confirmations from those nominees that they can serve. And so I did want to mention that our lists are sort of everywhere. Our lists of eligible faculty, even faculty in what college. Unfortunately, we sent out one for CALPS where one of the people had died last semester. So these lists seem to be in complete disarray. And I was wondering if it would be okay maybe after July 1 when some of the or the IBHE has approved as much as they can, and some of these schools and colleges become official, if we can ask those colleges or those schools for lists of faculty and then go through and annotate those, because it just seems to be quite the mess on those lists. So that's something I propose doing, just so that we can at least get that ready for future elections.
Yeah, I actually talked to Josh about this.
Yeah.
The latest list we have is one that we usually get in September and in February lists from HR. HR's list seemed to be incomplete, and they've gotten worse with the reorganization. Maybe they'll get better now that all this is done. So what that list we have now is one that I basically took from HR from the last two we requested from them. And then I took another list that I got from the provost office. I then bounced the three lists against each other. And then I sent the list to the individual colleges that were in place and asked them to put in, and then scrubbed it as much as possible. So the list is the best we could get at the time. And that's why also, Lee Chang, we had the issue with additional people on, because our records in Faculty Senate were not as good as they could have possibly been. And we had to reconstruct them last year. And so we didn't know which senators had served 2 terms. So we didn't want to disqualify anybody by guessing. And we did have some notify Josh that they had already served 2 terms, couldn't serve again. So they were taking off the ones that got notified. So again, that's one reason that fell that way.
Oh, yeah. And
what I suggested to Josh was to take the list we have now, and every year at the beginning of the semester to send the list to each college dean with the names we have for tenure track and non-tenure track, and then have them to look at it and add or subtract, because they are hiring the new people and they know who are actually leaving. And then we get it back from the college deans, and we'll get back 6 list, I guess now, instead of a whole huge list from HR. And then we'll also have to send it to someone in library affairs, make sure we just send the one to the law school and send the one to School of Medicine. Because School of Medicine is a whole different story that I don't want to waste your time telling you what you have to do to get that list. So it's just, it's a convoluted process, and there's not a good way to do it. And Jim Wall fought with this for 3 years before, and he actually helped me in the last year fight for this early on, and then I quit asking him because he would just continue to do things that I didn't think he had should have to do. So that's where we're at on the list. I agree, it's a mess.
So first, I didn't want to make. Please forgive me if it sounded like I was making any sort of judgment.
No, you weren't.
No, okay, good.
What you said was all true.
But I would also, since I know there's some dean turnover happening in the near future, I might also suggest going to the school directors with those lists as well, because I'm not sure some of the new deans are going to be really up to speed on all these things, and then we'll barrage them with all of our problems. So I think that's a good idea.
Thank you, Bethany. Do you think the new elected member, that means, okay, those special, I mean, you mentioned about a few, they were, can they join next Tuesday's meeting, faculty meeting? Okay.
Yes, so we'll have the votes tallied on, all the votes in next Monday at noon. And then we'll notify those nominees that were elected in ASAP. So then, and give them all the information for next Tuesday.
Yeah, once you have the new name, the name of those people, then give to Josh. Josh, you have a list of the faculty senate members, old or new, right? I mean, the current one, Josh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're going to send agenda, minutes, as well as directory and contact information to all the valid or all the faculty senate members this week. So that's why the updated email list is important. Thank you, Bethany, and thank you, Josh.
And we'll also send those names to committee on committees so that they can be assigned.
Yes, committee, absolutely, committee, yes. Thank you for your report, Bethany, and Joe, Undergraduate Education and Policy Committee.
So I'm awaiting a formal election of a co-chair, because we agreed that this was, given the workload that Bethany and I did shepherded through the committee last year, we're likely to have a repeat of it this coming year. So Amy Barrow should later today be formally elected. Informally, she already has a majority of votes in the committee, but we want to wait for the process to formally complete. Other than that, I have no report. This tends to be the only quiet period of the entire year, because Lizette doesn't usually do RME business during the summer. Bethany, you had something.
Yeah, so she has an RME for you, just FYI.
Okay.
So once you're all official, then give her an email. And
Typically, she doesn't do that to us, but I guess it's not
She was-
typical.
she was asking me if you guys had a chair yet, because she had something to send your way. So if you don't mind contacting her, that'd be awesome.
I will.
Now, if they are going to, I mean, let's say if Lizette is going to send you, or whoever will send you IME, we cannot put it on the agenda next week, because we faculty executive council.
No, in fact, we can't put it on the agenda the entire summer, and here's why. I think I really think I'm going to have to tell her that. I know she wants to wants to get business done expeditiously, but as of May 15th, faculty go off contract.
Exactly.
So no, I think I'm going to have to put my foot down on that.
Good. We're on the same page. So for the next faculty senate general meeting, we have no IME, which would be
no. We're just going to have to wait till September. Yeah.
Good. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any question for Joe before we move to next committee?
Joe, I had a quick question. I don't know if you know the answer to this. Has the, because I was part of those interviews for the vice chancellor for enrollment. Do you know what the what the status is on that search? Has an offer been made?
I do not, and I was hoping to. I'm going to ask the provost at 1 o'clock about that, because
Okay, good.
Patrick and I were interviewing finalists along with a couple other people for the directors of enrollment management last month. So we had 4 excellent finalists. All 4 of them could do an excellent job at this. I think we're really lucky with whoever we get to hire, but I would like to know who we're hiring.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anything, and I was only asked for the smallest amount of input. Quite honestly, it was that.
Yeah, right. We did a survey. That's all.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of inadequate, but
yeah,
I suppose that's faculty input.
That's faculty input. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, but I intend to ask her at 1 o'clock, because it's so important. We can't let it slide.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And next one, budget committee, and Marcus and Jenny.
Marcus? Marcus, you're muted, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said, Jeannie, I think you had something you wanted to bring up that you were going to ask.
Yeah. So I'm new as co-chair, but I was on the committee last year, and might provide a little bit of continuity. And of course, Marcus has worked with all of this many, many times. And so there was one question that came to me actually from the law school that I was hoping would benefit everybody. And that was a question of how the state appropriation is distributed across the colleges and departments at SIU. And if there's some transparency or a formula, there's a lot of new leadership across the colleges and departments. They'd probably like to know that. And it also ties into the equity issues that the budget committee has discussed before and had promised last year. And there are a number of budget committee members here today that we all discussed how to make not necessarily a town hall every year, but that budget equity analysis could be updated every year and enhanced in some ways. So this was one specific question that could do that. So I know that it's a question that could be posed to the provost and to the chancellor, but I wanted to ask you all first, the best way to approach getting that information.
And I found that, and y'all may have found this last year on the budget committee, and I was on the budget committee prior to becoming president last year too, that especially with this new chancellor, if you ask for data, he usually makes sure you get it. I know he put y'all in touch with Judy Marshall for many things. When I've asked him questions, you know, I've had meetings with him and Judy and Scott Bridges. And so I don't think the data will be hard to get, Jennifer. I think we just need to ask for it. And I think that they will provide it to us.
He's certainly brought a culture of glasnost into the process here. What I was going to say is that Yuting and I got an email just last night from Mira, and then Yuting then forwarded it to the rest of you on this committee. But that gives you a sense of what Marcus is saying, that Mira was directed by you know, Austin directed Mira to send us the enrollment data. So it's something that probably she wouldn't have sent us otherwise. But,
I
but there
agree.
seems to be this spirit of openness.
Yeah, I agree. With data, and then you can see a lot of more things, and then just like say, okay, this is good, this is what. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything from budget committee? Anything else, Marcus, Bethany, before we move on?
Everything else?
No.
No.
Okay. Committee on committee. Sung Hee and Ina, I know Ina is not here. Sung Hee, could you? I know you guys work very hard in the past few days. I want to thank you, especially to work with different standing committee. Maybe you will give us an update, and by working with different committee and also your own group on committee who need to prove all the chairs.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just as Elaine and I were elected as co-chairs for the committee. We are very busy the last week, and until now, we just tried to all faculty senate members were assigned to first standing committee based on their preferences first. So now each committee number is almost similar. It's not kind of almost balanced well. And when the new faculty senate members, three faculty members will join faculty senate next week, then they will be assigned to their committee later. And then from the last weekend until now, as you know, Elaine and I have been kind of busy helping each committee, recommending their co-chairs and voting for each standing committee. So now we have a co-chairs of all committee have been elected, and only faculty status welfare needs kind of decide. But as I report to the beginning of our meeting, almost done. So Jennifer Sherry gonna be finalized her name as co-chair of faculty status welfare. And then, as I mentioned, the undergraduate education and the police committee will decide Amy Bro as a co-chair. So we have all co-chairs of each standing committee. So thank you so much for your support and the prompt the response, everything. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Sung Hee. I know you guys work very hard. You did a wonderful job. And both you and Elaine working almost day and the night. Any question for committee on committees? Okay, now Scott, faculty status and welfare committee, Scott.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank Sung Hee and the Committee on Committees for helping get a co-chair for the committee as well. They've been very helpful. I have not talked to Jennifer yet, but we'll do so in the next day and talk about some of the priorities. I've already been sent several things to consider, sort of some issues that maybe were percolating this last year. And so I'll get with her and we'll start a dialogue on some of these things related to issues like, I think one of the things that was talked about was sabbaticals, as well as membership on the committees that we've already been, membership on the Senate, and some of the rules we have about that have some vagueness related to membership in the Senate and participation. So we'll go over some of those things and start a discussion about some of that in the coming weeks. But other than that, I don't have anything else to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I know that when we talk about the faculty senator, faculty status and welfare are extremely important to me. So I really appreciate you guys working very hard, take it seriously. Thank you, Scott. And
Absolutely.
any question for Scott?
Yeah, I did. We've had such a tremendous year, and this particular committee seemed perhaps the most important of all of our committees, given what we've been through. And also, we have a very profound new resolution on diversity, and that every single one of our committees needs to address that directly. And so I was surprised that last year we didn't have any report addressing what was happening with that pivotal, case with the Chauvin trial, with the identities of the students, with the pandemic and the trauma and the loss. There's just so much that is needed here as a voice for the faculty. So and I'm only speaking personally for myself, I really hope this committee is very active this year and takes these things on directly so that we do not, as a faculty, appear passive or even callous to the issues.
Thank you. Agreed.
Can I just add to that a little bit, which is I'm never, and this is a question maybe for you, Ching, or one or two other people that were maybe not even here anymore on the executive committee. But do we know what the status of we investigated the hiring of the 3 professors in Africana Studies middle of the year. Did anything ever come of those reports, the investigations? Informally, I know they've offered job hires to 3 people, and 2 have accepted, at least from what I've heard as of last week. So clearly the process is finishing, and it was a successful search, but I'm curious in terms of going forward, whether there was where we are in that and where is it going to go? I don't know if this is a question you can answer.
We just received.
I was not on the committee last year, so I don't know specifically what was done by the Faculty Status and Welfare. Since then.
We just received the report from Rahman this morning for the committee that had been requested. And he basically says the committee explored issues of hiring and management practices in the Department of Africana Studies in response to concerns over unfair hiring practices. A letter was sent to the Faculty Senate by Dr. Brown, which raised significant concerns over a recent hiring initiative for 3 new faculty lines to join Africana Studies program. The FSW collaborated with the governance committee and the executive committee to explore these concerns, which included a survey meeting with the dean. That's all it had.
Which is all that. Which I was present for all of those things. I was curious if so it looks like nothing ever came of it beyond that.
I will add a few sentences when it comes.
Right. So then I'm curious in the future, where do we want to go with that? Because the Faculty Senate was exercising an oversight responsibility that we have. We are the delegate agent, with delegated powers to represent the faculty. At the same time, nothing was done with that. So going forward, if we have concerns about inequities in hiring practices, particularly with this new school that's going to be formed of Africana and multicultural studies, how do we express that? And this is keeping in the spirit of Jennifer's point that you raised a moment ago, because we definitely need to do. I feel personally, again, that we've had some systemic racism in our campus regarding the treatment of Africana Studies. For the longest time, it was never allowed to be a major. For 30 years, it was never allowed to be a major in the College of Arts. Only in the last 10 years was it allowed finally to be a major. But it's just sort of like, we need to do a lot better job here.
Okay, so Li Cheng, I know you guys were worked on this issue. I know Marcus just gave update. Do you think we should put this? I think Jogi, raised a good point. Do you think we can put as all the business for the Faculty Senate agenda next Tuesday? What do you think?
Okay, I'm basically, I think both governance committee and the faculty welfare committee going through these processes. From governance committee's point of view, we drafted a number of resolutions. I think the final, because most of the draft, most of the decision in our draft is trying to say the university should stop the hiring process immediately. That's something, at least I personally felt, is a little bit tricky, because the question for us is like, should this hire going forward? And then the reason we ask these things whether going forward or not is based on whether the voices by faculty were heard. So when we were talking about talking with these faculty members, and we figured out at least they express their opinions, although maybe their decision was not taken, their preference is not what is being taken. But so based on that, we said, okay, we should have these hires going forward. That's why from government's committee's point of view, we did not go forward to produce a resolution that will say the hire should stop. On the other hand, in terms of whether the faculty's voice being heard properly, or like whether there's some bias there, we thought it should be kind of dealt more seriously with the by the committee, not by us. So that's a little bit tricky. So should we produce a resolution that stop the hiring process at all, or we let it go? So our committee basically decided to just like let it go. I think Patrick also was in the governance committee. We had one Zoom discussion. During that Zoom discussion, I think I sensed the feeling is we should not ask the university to stop the hiring process. That's a key point for us to not producing a resolution. In terms of whether it's what would be the proper way of bring this issue to a conclusion, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it's something we can talk about, or we can make a decision. So that's something.
Just maybe to add to this, because y'all also asked me to get information about operating papers, and now we're going to start hearing more about operating papers. And actually, just this week, we had a meeting, me and the chancellor, the provost, and Dave DeLalla, to discuss the operating papers. The only unit that has an operating paper that's in the chancellor's hands, and he's got to get it back to them with comments by tomorrow, is the College of HHS, Health and Human Services. They're the only one that has one completed this time. The process, and it's a contractual thing. It's in the contract. And actually, Ann and I have discussed this, and Ann and I and Dave have discussed this based upon the questions y'all had previously, is that the operating papers, now there's going to be, basically 38 new operating papers that are going to be coming forward, all the schools plus the colleges. The process that they're hoping will occur, and again, it's all faculty driven is the key. And that's why, we wanted to get involved, and they're hoping we do get involved, because they don't want to push it from the administrative side and get the people thinking they're pushing things down on the faculty. But then again, there was a lot of complaints and concerns that the faculty don't get them done. And so they never make it to the process to get up to be approved. And so, it's one of those catch-22s. And if the faculty don't get them done, because the faculty disagreements, it's usually faculty disagreements on operating papers.
Sure. But to be frankly honest, it's quite rich that they don't want to impose an operating paper on us when they've imposed a reorganization.
Well, that
requires us to do operating papers again. So
the chancellor says that he wants the faculty to do these, and again, we think that he is more in line to do things like this. And Dave DeLalla says he and Ann have talked several times, and that again, according to the contract, it's the faculty that are driving these. And so what they would like to see the faculty senate do is to encourage the faculty through the senators to make sure this process continues. because they go through the process at the faculty level, and they want the college ones usually go first, and then the schools are going to have to go after the colleges because they have to make sure they match with what's in the college operating papers. And then they actually don't, as David Lala said, we don't do anything with them until we receive them from the faculty. And then we have a certain time frame we have to make comments back. And that's according to the contract. And so and in the operating papers, this discussion we're having on hiring, there's a section in operating papers on hiring that, again, the faculty can help formulate how they want it to be as it goes up. So this is something maybe we as a faculty senate may want to, again, working with the faculty association and making sure that the faculty understand that they do have a voice in this, and that comes from the governance process, and they need to exercise that voice in getting these operating papers completed. Because again, it's and they wanted right now to have them done within the next academic year. And
Thank you. We only have 10 minutes left. I think this is a very complicated issue, and organization itself should need assessment because it itself is very, very controversial. And now we're talking about the operating paper. That's another thing faculty senator need to discuss, okay? And that's why we want a faculty senator to be independent and to exercise our autonomy and also our authority. And because of time, I would like the governance committee to have a brief report. Both Patrick and Lee Chang is here. I know Jay cannot be here. So Lee Chang and Patrick.
Patrick?
I'll defer to Li Shang because she was the chair last year. I do have one issue that I'd like to bring up, but I'll wait until Li Shang has said whatever she'd like to.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Jay, for taking this. I'm taking from Patrick for the fall because he is going to be on sabbatical. And the reason I'm just like less active on this committee activities because I'm responsible for IDHE. There's a whole bunch of stuff I think I need to take care of. And then, but I'm willing to working on this. The first one, we haven't had a Zoom meeting after being nominated as a co-chair, but we're working on operating papers, as you all know. And then the only one I look at is operating papers of faculty senator by U5. I think probably we will extend a little bit, a few more, including more colleges to say how their operating papers are working on. Another one I would like to think about like in terms of reorg. It looks like the schools, everything's done, but operating papers, we need to finish it. We need to have a deadline, set a deadline to when we finish that. And then the related with that one is the directors, school directors. I'm saying this is like, yes, upper administration finish this. For instance, for my school, they started to July 1st, 2021, actually in a couple of months, we were asked to do an internal director search. We were trying to find a permanent, you can do interim or you can find a permanent, like do an internal search. We were trying to do internal search way in March. And then the upper administration from dean and upper, they delayed until now. Say the committee is formed, everything, so they've never given a green light. Oh yeah, you guys can go ahead. Instead of an interim, which is not necessary, we could have a permanent internal like a search. It's not done. It to me is that okay, we just want to have the school's name, then the rest of them you are left alone. Even we are self-motivated to do those things, and then we don't give a green light. That's something I think I would like to talk about in the push. Of course, other listed issues as we received email and Scott talked about for the governance committee, we would like to work on that too. Yeah. Patrick.
Yeah, I just want to add quickly. First of all, I do want to thank Li Shang for her leadership on the governance committee last year. It was wonderful to have her as co-chair, and I think she did an outstanding job. And this issue kind of relates to what you said, Li Shang. I think that we should also consider what seems to me the proliferation of interim positions on this campus. I mean, there are so many interim deans, interim administrators, interim this and that. And I think that the problem, to my mind, about having all these interim positions is that they're very much, in some ways, beholden to the administration in ways that permanent directors or permanent deans are not. And I'll just use COLA for an example. We've had an interim dean now going on 3 years, and there's no attempt to initiate a permanent search. And I think that's a real problem that needs to be addressed by the Faculty Senate and perhaps by the Governance Committee.
It was even worse than that. It was for many, many years, Mira did not resign her position as Dean of COLA while she was acting provost. Now, what's funny about this is that Mira is not eligible to be a Dean of COLA anymore because technology is no longer part of COLA. But so she would have to go to Health and Human Sciences now.
Okay.
I also saw this at the law school. I was interim associate dean with an interim dean, and we'd had several interim deans before our current permanent one. And I found that they were beholden to the senior faculty because they wanted their support if they wanted the job. And nothing could easily get done or reformed because the senior faculty were so loyal to what they'd crafted. It was very difficult, and I did it for one semester. I
don't mean to cast aspersions on anybody. I'm not questioning anyone's integrity. I just think that if you're in an interim position,
it's tough.
You can be easily dismissed.
Well, we voted in our school operating group not to have an interim director for a lot of the same reasons Patrick is outlined. It's better all around to have permanent people.
Correct. And not only that one, I think another issue Chancellor addressed half is basically he's returning the power of hiring to college. The second part from my perspective is all the directors, deans, their contracts 1 year. Okay, it's totally ridiculous. Previously, it's a 3 years appointment. So they will be able to have a vision, have something done. Secondly, they have, for instance, in our operating paper, 2/3 of faculty can vote like a non-confidence if the chair doesn't do a good job. Secondly, we have in like a midterm review of the chair. Those are the guides for the chair. And then now we have 1 year, basically even the permanent chair doing job for certain amount of time because they don't know if their contract is done. So those things I would like to say being addressed, not only a government committee, also like a faculty. Those are things.
Thank you, Li Chang and Patrick. Because of time, I would like first to welcome Amy. Amy just joined us. Congratulations on being elected as the co-chair. And
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're talking about.
Yuting, I can be really, really quick. For the governance committee co-chairs, there's an issue that I looked at. This is only my second year, but I think I gave the information to Jim Wall, but I was new and I didn't know how to push anything through. But in looking through all the resolutions and some of the work that I've done, I've noticed that our code of ethics is out of date for the faculty. It relies on the AAUP 1960s version, which has been revised by the AAUP in the 1980s and 2009. So I'm going to send you the links for both. It would be a very easy, pragmatic thing to do. And the revisions have lovely language related to gender discrimination, anti-racism, which would be a nice task. So here it is.
Thank you. Thank you. I know
there was a request for a faculty code of conduct, and I passed that on to you, team, to give one of the committees. So that works in very well with the code of ethics. Thank you.
Good. And I pass it both to governance committee as well as the faculty status and welfare committee. And hopefully two committee, they will consider them. And I know a special reorganization we talked, we're not going to have it. So because of time and new business, we want to talk briefly about the schedule. There are two pragmatic issues here. Number one, for the faculty senate executive council meeting, usually we meet at 1 to 2. Last year, Marcus changed to noon to actually 1 to 3 ordinarily. And last year, Marcus changed to noon to 2. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering whether we could, let's say, starting in July, next fiscal year, we will meet from 1 to 3. Would that be?
What was the reason for 12 to 2, by the way?
It was some senators had some conflict at the 2 o'clock hour, and okay. So we did it at the executive committee, like one of our first meetings. We changed it.
And is it standard that the provost and chancellor come at the 1 o'clock hour?
We changed that too. We changed it where they would come after we had a chance to discuss things. We made.
I still like that hour. I still like that hour before, but without them here.
Yeah. Okay.
So whatever we do, I'm fine with whatever we do. I just want to make sure that we have that meeting before they come.
Very good. So another pragmatic issue is that shall we still continue by Zoom or physically, or should we have two plans?
Zoom is so much more convenient.
Agreed. I actually like the Zoom format for these types of meetings better than in person.
Okay.
I think we should keep time. And plus, for our medical school, we used to try to do a conference system, and it always messed up. And they say Zoom is worked out very well for the medical school. So, and Carol is graciously set us up a YouTube page so that our faculty can watch it from YouTube without having to come into the meetings too. So I would say even if we do go to live meetings, I think we should keep Zoom going for those reasons alone.
Good. So
didn't we need to do it even before pre-pandemic? I seem to have memories that faculty senators from the School of Medicine would often be on Zoom.
We tried. We had some
in Springfield, right? Because they're up in Springfield.
They weren't Zoom. There were some other kind of conference systems, and they always messed up.
They have an in-house conference call system. So I teach between both campuses, and it's a mess. Zoom this year I did Zoom, and it was immensely easier.
So I think Zoom is preferable to that. So
good.
And Carol has graciously said that as soon as we get the meetings to them, he'll get them all set up for the entire next year.
Good. Thank you, Carol. Can you hear us?
So Zoom is the new normal. We're not going to have in-person meetings going forward.
But I like to have at least mixed meetings, because for us it's like we need to have like an interpersonal exchange. Sometimes simple greeting, simple something can work out better, or we can, for instance, chat simultaneously among ourselves.
Right, we're going to have to feel our way through that distancing and what the rules are for next fall. But I would hope we're going to have some new actual face-to-face meetings here. I'm getting tired of doing calls for everything.
So for tonight's meeting, maybe we'll stay with Zoom. Then for the fall, we may have a more discussion whether we're going to continue to have Zoom, or maybe we have a both format or whatever. So for tonight's meeting, Kara, we can work with Kara to set the Zoom meeting.
There's something nice about that big table that, either if in the library or sometimes we met over in the student service building, and that big table and everybody is sitting around the table. I think there's something nice about that.
I agree, but the rooms are too small for an open meeting. So we have other faculty members and students there. I think they get shoved against the wall, and I don't like that symbolically.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah.
So there's
Okay.
that lovely auditorium in next to the rec center where the health center is.
Mhm.
That might work, but it doesn't have that, everybody sees everybody like a U. I agree with that. So I wonder if we could explore different spaces.
So Yuting, can we charge you with working with the registrar's office to find a room available that Tuesday between 1 and 3 once a month that we could have somewhere on classroom somewhere on campus that would see? I'm thinking like the second floor of Lawson would be ideal because that's like 80 seats there.
Yeah, I think I talked to Josh. I talked to Josh that we, in fact, it's good. We need to plan ahead. Besides Zoom, so Josh, maybe you and I will continue to work on the plan B, in addition to Zoom. Would that be okay, Josh? I think we'll give you a report. Thank you. Now it's almost a few minutes after 1 o'clock. We have Provost Miracle Raju here. I know Chancellor Nan is not being able to be. He is not able to be here. So and last night I got the report from Provost office, and I shared with you guys only, and. Perhaps Dr. Miracle Raju, you will give us some update.
Could I just ask a real quick question before she jumps into it? I think this is probably going to be the main topic for today.
Sure.
Mira, could you give us an update on the hiring, where we are with hiring the Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management?
Right. So, as you know, we had a search firm had been hired, and we interviewed 4 finalists. Mm-hmm. And I think right now that they're in the process of finalizing the hire. So is not like after we finished our interviews, I was on that search committee. Mm-hmm. So after we gave our input, then we are out of that process, and we are waiting on the decision to be made.
Is the idea that the person would be in post by July 1st?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know the exact timeline. It may be earlier, but
so thank you for
certainly July 1.
Yeah, so thank you also speaking personally. Thank you for extending the opportunity. I was one of the faculty interviewers for the 4 people, so it was a very good process, I thought.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. So maybe we have a Q&A questions.
Really quickly, Marcus, did you have a question? I see that your hand is up. Okay.
I had it up while I looked at it. Sorry. Thank you.
No worries.
I had a couple of quick questions. I was on the budget committee last year, and I'm just brand new co-chair. And I was wondering, first I wanted to thank you for all of your assistance with getting us the information we needed for the report card and the town hall. And I just wanted to follow up and see if any discussion had been made on an administrative response to some of the data that we found. And then I had one other quick question.
So if I'm not mistaken, I think like Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration was probably the primary person involved in that effort. I wasn't that directly involved. I know that data is with the Chancellor, and sort of the response would come from there.
Okay.
Yeah,
even
that's my understanding, because I'm also not on the Chancellor's Finance and Budget Committee either. And I know that Jacob was a member of that committee. I don't know whether, Jennifer, you are a member of that committee. Yeah, so
we will be moving forward.
Yeah, so I mean, I've just like heard about it at the Faculty Senate. I've not been directly involved in those meetings.
Okay, so you're not aware if we would receive some kind of...
Yeah, it may be happening, but I'm not privy to that part of that discussion.
Okay, I can follow up. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question, Mira. I was wondering now, like the reorg is going forward, most of the schools and the colleges are kind of names and the transfers or changes being made. I was wondering whether you have a timeline in terms of like the directors, deans, when do you have a timeline to complete those search? Or is just let it go and without a particular timeline? Or you're planning to have timeline on that?
So yeah, thanks for your question, because that's a timeline that is not easy for us administration to impose. Some of it you have to also like preempt and sort of imagine what the decision will be of the IPHE. Let's assume all of that happens. We know that faculty just are off contract for the 3 months of summer. And then when August 16th happens, everyone is back on contract. We don't want any chaos there. So we're in the process of renewing. And that's what we did for the other schools. That may have been approved by July 1. So what we did, we just renewed the chair's contract. So for fall, we have someone in charge of that unit, and then use that fall to do the search for a school director. So that's kind of the logic that we use to ensure some continuity and stability for the unit and not predispose some of the outcomes.
Okay, thank you. And also in terms of like operating papers, do you have a timeline for, okay, when we'll get this done, or what kind of general guidelines in terms of substance, like contents, the higher administration will give?
Yeah, so, we have to maintain this fine balance between telling the units, go do the operating paper versus encouraging them to do it and providing guidance. So I'll just give an example of a unit that has been working very actively. So the College of Health and Human Science, that particular college has been very intensely working with with Dave DeLawla's office. And right now we are today's the 4th, right? By tomorrow, we have to provide like our last feedback. So we've done lots of rounds. And so that's an example of a unit that had started July 1. And then, usually we say in a year's time, get it done. So they've kind of gotten it done or almost getting it done. And then the schools in that college have been kind of like slow walking their operating paper because they want to see what the college one is so they can align it with that college. So
that was going to be my follow-up.
Yeah, so just giving an example of that, yeah.
So my follow-up question to that was, in schools, there's been some confusion about this. Can schools present operating papers to Dave DeLawla's office before the college does?
Yeah, and some have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then another follow-up for like in CALPS, where we're still choosing a dean, are the operating papers then going to go forward after that dean?
So yeah, in other units, the faculty have taken that, like say for example, CHHS, they're still under an interim dean, but they have been doing that work. So even though the dean will be coming anyway, it is sort of faculty driven. So that work is going on.
And then just a really quick follow-up. So I've heard nothing from the previous College of Science. Is this something that we have to get going, or does that come from above?
No, it's a faculty driven, but there is guidance available from the APAA office. Yeah.
No,
because some faculty may get upset if the administration comes on very strong and says, you need to get your operating paper. This is your deadline. Get it done.
Sure.
We can provide the guidance. Yeah.
I'm just worried that no one's going to step into that role and say, we need to get this ball rolling.
Before our next question for the provost, I would like to take a second to introduce Inan Chukovsky to you. And she is our co-chair of the Committee on Committees. Thank you, Inan, for being here. And as I said about an hour ago, and the committee chairs, both you and Sung-Hee Lee has done a wonderful job for electing the co-chairs. Thank you for being here, Inan.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Questions for the provost?
I had one quick question. Just on the timing of the revisions to the NTT collective bargaining agreement. Are we getting close to the end? The law school has been tinkering with trying to make some changes. We just don't want to miss the boat.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that information handy to give you, Jennifer, but I can get it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, because Dave DeLawla is kind of like our rep on that. And I know that he's been very active last few days. And so I don't have the latest update from him.
Okay, thank you.
Shall we turn to the Excel worksheet that Mira gave us then?
Sure.
What I shared with you is something that Chancellor Lane has asked for since he's been here, and that we are providing to the deans every week. And so the recruitment retention coordinators in every college also get that data. So essentially, it is part of our efforts to increase the yield. So we have these admitted students, and if you saw in the file on the right-hand side extreme right column is the yield. So that's something that I generated because at cabinet it came up like, what's the yield as of today, 15 weeks out or 16 weeks out. And so I calculated that, and that really essentially is how many have registered versus how many were admitted. So that's the sort of proportion there. And then, so what that really shows is that for every academic program, how many students have been admitted. So if I tell you like, let me just share this overall data. So if say for all students, we have a certain number of admitted students, entire campus, that's your final total. But if you say, okay, who is bringing these students to campus, who's contributing these students, and who's able to get these students, yield these students, you can see, because sometimes when we put out the 10th day numbers, we identify like the top 5 programs. It is in terms of which program has brought us the largest number of students. So that you can see. And it's also information for every program in terms of, who is able to, what are the programs that high school students are finding attractive. So from the eyes of a prospective high school student, when they're looking at SIU, what is drawing them to come to SIU? So that kind of those high admitted students within a particular college will give you that data. And then Chancellor also wanted to know, so we had this weekly enrollment management meeting. So the Chancellor also wants to know, like, for how many students have you offered scholarships? How many have accepted? And so we're looking at that process by which we offer and accept. And so for this, for example, for fall 2021, we did not give like a deadline, like a drop dead. Let us know by this date or is gone. But we are thinking of doing it for fall 2022. But then we had discussion like, okay, if you have such a deadline, are you going to be able to stick with it? Because the students say you have a deadline of June 1st. Say by June 1st, the student saying, oh, I'm going to Eastern. But then by August 1st, they change their mind and say, I want to go to SIU. Are you like not going to give them that scholarship because they said no? So we have to be able to live with our decision. So we are struggling with that, because if you give that kind of deadline, then what the Chancellor would like us to think about is like, okay, 50% are not going to come who got scholarships. Now will you give it to another group of people because you have that money? So that's just an example to show how we are looking at the data that we have not looked at closely like this. So I can tell you, like when I was dean, I really wanted this kind of data. And so we have come a long way in 3 years. At that time, for me to get my list of admitted students, a list of students who are coming to the open house was not always easy. So we've come, we have, sort of gone by leaps and bounds to have this list. And then to see the housing contracts and to keep track of that, because that's the yield call. So when the recruitment retention coordinators or faculty are calling these admitted students, it's not like, hey, come to SIU. It's like, I hope you're going to come to SIU. Please sign your housing contract. Please sign up for a new student orientation, register for classes. So that register for classes, last 2 years, we've been working very hard. So prior years, academic advisors would kind of like wait for students who've been admitted to say, I want to register for classes. Now we're doing it another way. We are flipping it and we're saying, okay, we are creating a ready to register list. So as the admissions coordinator talks to the student and gets them to come and apply and all that, we say, okay, are you ready to register? Then we have created a ready to register list, and the academic advisors are now accessing that and then calling them and saying, I understand you're ready to register for classes. So that is another way. So these are just examples of things that we are doing more proactively, more intentionally to get students to register for classes. And then if a student said, I'm still thinking about it, then we wait a little bit, then we call them back again and say, hey, can you register for classes? So that's what each of those columns indicate. And so when we talk about yield, we're saying, okay, who's going to be in the seats on the 10th day? Because even the first 2 weeks, we can lose some students. We know that from the new student orientation is like 99% yield. Like even if they do the new student orientation, they can still drop out and say, I don't want to go, or I'm going to sit out for a year, or I'm going to community college. They can change their mind like that. So that's what those indicate. And it also is data for the units to see where the activity is and, where to look at some best practices. So instead of feeling disheartened, okay, we are not getting as many, or we're not, just look at other programs. Okay, how come they have so many? What are they doing? So in our weekly meeting, we are sharing those stories where previously we did not talk to each other as much. I think now across colleges, we're talking and sharing best practices, and they're saying, oh, in that college, they're doing virtual tours. We can also do virtual tours. So people are learning from each other. And I think we are essentially trying to identify issues.
I got a couple of follow-ups on that, and maybe a question at the end on something a little bit different, but ties in a little bit. The chart you provided us is still under some of the old colleges and so forth, and I know that y'all probably trying to convert it, and that gets to the question I'm asking in a few minutes: is when do you think we will actually see a new org chart for the way we're going to be when everything gets through, hopefully IBHE, because it hasn't been updated on your website since last December. So that was it. But also, this data is really good data, and I really appreciate you sharing this with us. And I've seen some of this before, and I know that there was discussion. One of the colleges at a leadership meeting recently presented a really nice Excel spreadsheet, and they said that they share that with their faculty. And there was discussion about having all the deans do the same type of spreadsheet, and possibly making sure they share that with their faculty. I think the faculty really would like to see these numbers. And I don't know that all the colleges are willing or going to share them. So is there any directive maybe from your office to the deans to prepare that spreadsheet and to share it with their faculty?
Yeah, so Mark, responses to 2-3 different things that you mentioned. So regarding an updated chart, it'll be only after the IBHE provides their sort of feedback. And so even the one that is up there is dated after the IBHE responded.
Okay.
As soon as we get that response, then I'll update it and post it. So that's one part of it. And just to let you know, the IBHE is keen on wrapping this up. And they actually thought it'll come like in 3 waves, but now this will be the 4th wave. And so we have kind of prepared them for it and let them know that. So we are hoping that that will happen. In terms of the data, so the one that was presented at Leadership Council had a lot more. And so actually, this is a more streamlined version that is more relevant, because they had like continuing and transfer and old and new and a comparison. This is more. So I saw what the chancellor wanted, and I created this sort of thing, which is much more cleaner and I think more directly relevant. If you have too much information, also people can get overloaded. So this is information that all the deans have, and the deans can share it. And so my charge to the deans is that you are responsible for that yield rate at the end of it. Please get all of your faculty and your recruitment retention coordinators on board and see what best efforts you can. So they are free to share that data with their faculty. I'm not restricting that part of it. And each of them, and so I'm like directing them, this is where you go. So now what we did in Teams, we have created a folder in Dean's Council called this enrollment. And so that is where I'm posting this. So I'm doing it myself. I've asked institutional research to give me this. And then the colors that you see, I put them in so that I save it for the deans. And then for cabinet, I share that with cabinet also. And I also do the, every Monday night, I do the update that I give you in terms, and I can, share it with you here, is the how many freshmen on campus, how many freshmen online, how many freshmen on off-campus sites, transfers and so on, and graduate students, how many housing contracts, NSOs, the retention rate, everything. So we are also working on our retention rate. So the freshmen who came in fall 2020 who haven't registered yet. So every week I'm getting that and then sharing it with the deans so that they can call up these students. We're doing multiple efforts to get these freshmen enrolled.
Amir, on the one that you provide, I noticed it's not got the breakdown with online versus residential. Yeah. Which messes with the numbers some, because some programs have a lot of online students, and so the yield's going to be off because of housing and things like that. But can you break it down with online versus residential so that we can see the both for like accounting. We have about now half our students are online, half our students are residential. So it looks like our numbers are a little bit different because of that.
Okay. Let me just pull up give me 1 second to just pull up what I sent you. Okay. All right, so let me see, you're talking about accounting.
And I actually think that number you have there is just our residential for accounting. Because we have about the same amount in online too.
So you're saying that the 139 is
It's our residential, I think.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
99.9% sure it's residential from what I looked at this week.
Yeah, so because we are really, we are focusing on this freshman class that we are bringing in. That's why this particular file has that first-time, full-time freshman. And it's not that we are ignoring the transfer students, but Chancellor is really keen on this, bringing in the largest freshman class. So that's why these data are focused on that. I can give you the update on the transfer numbers, which actually the online transfer numbers are much stronger.
Yeah.
Like our off-campus transfers. So on-campus transfers actually is the area that the grouping that is struggling the most. Even that they're kind of catching up. But on-campus transfers are 0.7% lower than same time last year. So we have 1,728 applicants. In terms of registered students, we have 244, which is 1.7% higher than same time last year. But
which is an improvement over recent weeks and months when it was.
Yes, because I do these data every week, every Monday night I do it. I can see, because I'm like minusing and adding, so I can see the improvement. I'm glad you noticed, Joe, that.
Because I ask you the question every month, so I
it went from
I have a sense of the trend. So I wanted that's a segue into a comment and a question I have about the data. Thank you for this, because this was rather enjoyable reading through the data last night and seeing across the university what's going on. So I have a comment first, which the data confirmed an anecdotal opinion I had for a decade or more now. So the data, my opinion wasn't off base. I was really, really gratified in it, which is in history and English and a couple other programs in COLA, as opposed to also a couple programs in the College of Science, or once was College of Science. We have a liberal arts major, the BA in history, and then we have a pre-professional program, which is the BS in history education. And we always suspected, but never could prove until you gave it the data last night, that there's a
I saw it myself.
Much higher yield rate at this stage in May, a much higher yield rate among freshmen who are saying, I want to be a social studies teacher. I'm going to college to become a social studies teacher. I'm going to register in history education major. What we normally realized in the past was, in my predecessors is Doug's, I'm Doug's now as well, we realized we didn't really recruit a lot of freshmen into the BA major. That happened later. That happened with the undecideds that would then took a history class or two or whatever, and then or took an English class or two. And imagine it's similar in English. So that's the first comment I had, which is that you're going to have a much higher yield rate, it seems, this early in the game among the pre-professional programs across the university than you are going to have in the majors that don't have a particular pathway to career spelled out right away. So that's point number one. I think my question is, how does this yield rate right now look compared to prior years?
Okay.
Because obviously we want to see progress on that.
So two answers.
Okay.
First of all, your comment about the programs that have a clear career path having a higher yield rate or higher admit rate is accurate. It also matches with the market survey that was done, where when they went out and talked to various stakeholders, what they said is that students are looking for that path, particularly the students we attract who come to SIU.
Sure.
Is that they are looking for a job so that they can uplift their family, improve their lives and so on. So any program that has a clear path, actually, for example, like in nursing, which really has the highest number of admits, is 400 plus admits, is because it has, not only is it got a path to a job, but a job that's in high demand.
That's
so
right.
They're more sure of getting a job. So
And we're seeing the
that
same
is
thing,
true.
and we're seeing the same thing with our education majors
Yeah,
because there's a
because,
shortage of
yeah,
teachers.
shortage of teachers. So you
Shortage
see
of teachers,
a
yeah.
uptick there. That's one part. Now, in terms of the yield rate, we did not do this kind of a chart or a file before. But
Okay,
I can tell you that on the 10th day, our yield rate this past year was 23%, but the year before it was 27%, and the national average is 30%.
Right.
So we have a ways to go, and we are 15 weeks. A lot of it like even picks up in the
So
last.
you haven't broken it down. This is the first year you're breaking it down by program.
Like this.
So
and
can you compare the total though, the aggregate where we are right now, is that comparable to data you had last year?
So yeah, I can tell you overall, thank you for the question. So for first time, full-time freshmen, we have registered 481 students as of the data that I got. So sometime I get Sunday night, you might get Monday data. So there'll be a little bit of difference, but we are up 8% compared to last year at this time. So our yield rate is higher in terms of our on-campus transfers. It's 1.7% higher. In terms of online transfers, it's about 3.4% higher. In terms of graduate students, we are like 78% higher. We have registered 105 students, which is 78% higher than same time last year. So in terms of that.
Because I realized one of the things I'm trying to get a handle on is great data, but I want to get a handle on the context of the data, which is this to be expected for May? Given, in other words, do we find that our student yield rate goes up throughout the summer and therefore we're only getting an early glimpse at it? Or is this where we're going to be locked in 16 weeks? So I'm not sure. That's why what's the context of the data?
Yeah. So I'm also like, even I wonder, like, it's really good that we are up in terms of registered students. Does that mean that it'll continue to go up? Or just that we are catching them earlier because we're so
earlier and it's going to flatline.
But I'm thinking I'm an optimistic person, so I tend to think it's a little bit of both. Yes, you might catch some people who would come anyway, but I'll just give an example. So last week on the 30th of April, Chancellor Lane and a group of others went to the East St. Louis High School, and we have been getting a lot more activity from there. So they had over 100 students in the auditorium who are seniors. And afterwards, in the conversations, we gathered that there were some who were sure that they were coming here. They were admitted. We had already taken that list, sent them that list. But there were many who were on the fence who said, you know what? Because we announced the names of the students who have already said they're coming and who have scholarships. So they said, you know what? I think I'm also going to go. So we are seeing a little bit of that. I would say most of it is people are coming anyway and maybe a little bit of extra.
Okay. Thank you.
And today, Chancellor is not here because in Chicago, with the City Schools of Chicago and the City College of Chicago and many other people that he's visiting and trying to really get them to come. So we've connected first time with Rich Central High School, which an alum reached out to us. So we're doing a lot more things that we have done before.
Thank you. Joe, still have a question?
No, that was my two questions for now anyway. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyone else from Executive Council? Anyone else? Okay.
Yeah. Mira, I have a related question. I was wondering how financially, for students who registered earlier, a couple of years ago, I remembered our graduate students were trying to push them register earlier. They said, no, I don't want to register early because if I register early and then financial aid, they will charge them. So they will have to pay. For that reason, they want to wait until the last minute so they don't have to pay earlier. Would that be an issue? I know for financially difficult families, that might be a reason why they want to delay that process so they don't have to pay the money early on.
So actually, 2 years ago when Jennifer DeHamer was here, that was kind of like a myth that we have been trying to bust since then. So a student can receive their bill, but they don't have to pay because the financial aid is not released 10 days before the semester starts. So we have now, when we are texting a student who is not registered, we're saying in the same breath, register, even though, and if you have seen the news coming out of SIU today also, where we are telling them, register, you don't have to pay till close to the start of the semester. So we are trying to tell the students, like, don't get worried about that bill. You don't have to pay for it, but register for your classes. So we have been very intentional in the text messaging and other information to students to let them know, because if they're not sure, to tell them, like, don't worry about that bill. You can hold on to it and pay it within 10 days of the school starting.
Thank you. That's a great relief, because what happens, and then they will be charged interest and everything. It was kind of a mess in the early days. Thank you.
A question. I really appreciate how you aggregated the data. And when I aggregated even more, it seems clear that STEM is the most popular. I mean, putting together science and technology, and I'd throw agriculture in there maybe. And of that, health and human services had the most interest. I was just curious if that's been the case for a while. I can't say I'm new to SIU, but I'm relatively new. I mean, in my career, I'd be surprised that that was number one, but it seems to be at SIU.
So historically, the College of Applied Sciences and Arts, which was the College of Health and Human Sciences, made up, a bulk of that college. That has always been the largest in terms of number of students, because those are the programs that really probably, give a clear career path, and that has attracted a lot of students. So that is accurate, and then the biological sciences has always been very popular. So that is the second. And then psychology and criminology and criminal justice have been popular, as well as business administration. So these are the, handful of programs that have always historically been very popular.
So by always, do you mean like at least a decade?
Yeah, at least 10 years. Yeah. 10,
it's 15. Been that way. Okay.
10, 15.
Well, it's been a while since I went to college, so thank you.
Hey, Jennifer, a good thing to do is go look at the fact book, and you can see the largest programs and go back several years, and you see the largest programs over all the different years. It's a good book. The fact book has a lot of good information in it.
Okay, Patrick?
Hi, Mira. I'm co-chair with Li Shan on the governance committee. And I also had the pleasure of substituting for Ann Fletcher during the Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management interviews. And this was just on Tuesday and Thursday when she had class. And one of the issues that came up, and I just wanted to hear some of your thoughts about this, during the interviews, a few of the candidates mentioned possibly transitioning to a different platform besides Slate. And Joe can probably fill you in on this as well. I think I'm saying that accurately.
You are correct. You're correct.
And I was one of the reasons for this was because I'm also the Doug's in English department, and I just brought up making the engagement calls, and the engagement calls are something that I enjoy. Don't get me wrong. And I made, I think, 90 of them this spring. It was fun, and a lot of times it's a great pleasure. It's fun talking to the students, but there are a few. I would say probably maybe 15% of the time I'm actually talking to the student, and it seems like the student wants to talk to me. The other 85% of the time, the student is just thinking, "Oh my gosh, how can I get off the phone quickly enough? I hope he doesn't ask me about Shakespeare or something." And not that I don't treat it like a quiz or anything like that. But what I mentioned this in the interviews, and with the vice chancellors for enrollment management, and one of the things they said was, well, maybe faculty should be coming in a little bit later in the game in terms of the engagement call, or maybe if the student has indicated that they'd like to talk to a faculty member, that would be the time to bring the faculty member in. Because, I mean, as I said, it's wonderful talking to these students who are interested in English and they want to talk to me. I'm just worried that I might have an adverse effect on those students who are thinking, "Oh my gosh, I have to talk to this professor." And so this relates to the platform, the Slate platform, because one of the issues that the candidates brought up was that, well, in other platforms, it's a different person who might make that engagement call. And then if the student wants the faculty member to call, the faculty member will follow up. So I guess my question here is just sort of two-pronged. One, any thoughts about that? And then secondly, if the individual who's hired for the vice chancellor for enrollment management says, oh, I think we should switch to a different platform, is that something that you would consider? I know that it might be contractually whereby we're obligated to use Slate for, I don't know, five years or something, and it would cost the university a lot of money to switch platforms. So anyway, just those two questions. I'm sorry for that long explanation, but I wanted to give you the context behind it.
No, but I understand fully, Patrick, having tried to talk to these admitted students myself. I know it's not always easy to talk to everyone. Some might enjoy talking, and sometimes you talk to the parent and so on. But so my answer is like at different layers. So first of all, with regard to Slate, it's a relatively new platform that we got after Jennifer DeHamers came 2 years ago. So I mean, I'm not sure how many years thing we have with them. That's one. But it's also like the number one kind of customer CRM, the customer relations sort of management platform. We haven't fully implemented it. We are right now in phase 2. It takes a certain amount of time to get all its features articulated and get everyone trained. So I'm hopeful that Slate will continue to do well in terms of delivering the information to us. Second, we are always open to other platforms. We have been exploring EAB as in terms of we already have EAB for retention purposes, but we're also looking at EAB for Chancellor had been reluctant to get it in place and then hoist it onto a new person who comes into the role. So we have been sort of holding off, but we've been doing a lot of discussion with them, and we know SIUE already has it in place because they help you with the yield. So what they would do is they would help us like not chase all the 6,000 people. They would be able to look at data and tell you, hey, if you have any time, go after this middle group because they're most likely to come. This group is like no chance. This group will, whatever. So they would have helped us with the analytics. We don't have that piece right now. So we are just we are very earnest and trying everything. So that's one piece. So, we are open to that. And so that could be forthcoming, and it could be in addition to Slate. Now, in terms of like when you contact the student, that what you say, you're raising a very good question. We haven't looked at the analytics part of it. We're just going with the idea that we want to keep the student engaged because some of them have been admitted in September, some in December, and so now they don't start classes till August. How do you keep them engaged and talking to somebody? And so the admissions coordinator can only talk so much. They can talk about SIU, but who can talk about I'm an English major? Who can talk about what can I do with an English major? A faculty member. So and then our data indicate that last year for the groups, they did a sort and said, okay, who talked to a faculty member? It was 7% higher. We just did a sort of the data. So that's why we are saying talk to the faculty member. But I agree with you, we don't have that magic touch in terms of like figuring out when should the faculty member speak to a student. If
I can jump in really quickly, again, anecdotally here, but I've been Doug's of history for 3 years now. I'm going to be coming probably in as program coordinator in the fall when we become our new school. One of the things that I've noticed in my tenure, and I think this backs up what Patrick is saying, the very similar situation, English and history are very similar in a sense. If you're a history education major, right away you want to be a social studies teacher, you're more likely to want to talk to a faculty member. I'm not sure our undecided or leans are going to want to talk to me. I might away. So, and that goes with what I've noticed in the past year with campus visits. Grant Miller and I, who helps run the history education major with me, we have probably 9 out of 10 of our campus visits this past year have been for the history education major, have not been for the liberal arts. So that sort of, thinking about the nuances of that question might be helping us get a better improved yield rate in years to come. So that would be just to encourage you to perhaps even go deeper into the data with that.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Eugene.
That's okay. You can ask questions. Then we have about 17 minutes left. We would like the provost to give us some update about the faculty hiring, the deans, and also other kind of business. So you may just go ahead, ask one more question before I ask the provost to give us some update.
Oh, this is just a quick comment. It's good to know, I think, Mira, that these calls may be helping, even though I don't think even the students who hang up on me, it may be having some more of an impact than I think it does. The only sort of maybe suggestion I would have is, I recall that Taylor Bennett in admissions had a best practices for communicating with students. If she could do that again, that would be fantastic. And then the other recommendation would be, that's interesting to know that we haven't implemented all of Slate, because I know that I have emailed students, prospective students, if they indicate that their preferred method of contact is email. And I was told by admissions that I could attach something to the email, which is like a Slate timeline, so that it records the interaction in Slate. But I know that this is not a criticism of admissions, but I had to ask how to do this. And so I think that if there's any sort of a training session that maybe could be strongly encouraged for directors of undergraduate studies, so that we know all of the tools that's all kind of the bells and whistles that Slate has, so that we're utilizing the program to its greatest capacity. I think that would be a really good idea. Just two suggestions.
And I think, like Patrick, that suggestion really is will be highly appreciated by admissions, because for admissions to know, okay, faculty would like the training. Otherwise, they always worry that they are like pushing the training onto faculty and insisting or like, imposing, to know that faculty are interested. So, we have really sort of come a long way where we are having a much more tighter connection with admissions. And I think we'll do that more intentionally, so that you don't have to like figure out how to go get the training. It'll come to you.
Great, thank you.
Really quickly on this topic before we move on, something that's been happening in the past year because of Zoom, because of the pandemic, and I hope we continue going out of the pandemic. My experience working with admissions also on this question is about over 10 years. I've been trying to get, and so I can tell you the good, bad, and ugly between previous admissions policies and where I think we are heading now. In the past, there was always seemed to be a one-size-fits-all approach to admissions. And when I reached out to them in history and I said, look, I teach with this rather engaging pedagogy. I want to invite students to come watch me teach. I think that's going to and I got rebuffed. And this is long before you became provost. So it's not blaming, this wasn't, you had no response. You were still Dean of COLA and you had no connection. You probably were frustrated as much as I was about this. Going in the past year in the pandemic, we've done these more, Layla Murphy's done these more intimate meetings with students, much more user-friendly. Students are happier. They're more engaged. Patrick has been involved in some of these alongside me. I get the impression that works, that core. So I would encourage you as we come out of the pandemic to think about how admissions can engage with individual schools and departments. For example, history, we have the biggest regional history fair every March. I've often thought that's a missed opportunity. We've not put admissions people there, admissions counselors to sign people up for that. That's a missed opportunity. Science fairs, it's a missed opportunity. Lots of ways we can engage the students to bring them in. And I think our yield rate from those events is probably going to be higher because it already is self-selecting who's interested in that, who's coming to those events.
Yeah, and I after our last meeting, I did talk with admissions and have them, sort of do more liaison with the units, because units will they're used to doing it, they do it. Like we have drama days, we have history fair, we have foreign language days, so many events that
exactly. I kind of look at the meetings that we have in the 5 meetings a year we have in the basketball stadium as cold calling. That's cold calling. That's going to have the least yield. That's basically that's the first stage. Maybe they'll get information, they'll get a leaflet from me, but the higher yield rate is going to come from the more specialized events.
Absolutely, and more
Yeah.
interaction and connection. Admissions knowing when the event is going to happen, so they are there.
Yeah.
So
Mira, don't you have some data that from the past that shows that when the faculty do call the students that there is an increase between 7%
yeah,
and 10%?
that was 7%. Yeah, that's what I just shared. Yeah.
I mean, it's 7 to 10%. That's a big number.
Yes.
Well, we only have about a few minutes, 10 more minutes left, 10 or 12 minutes left. We would like the provost to give us some update on the budget issue, as well as the human resources issue involved the dean search and the faculty hiring in the next academic years.
Sure. I can give you an update in terms of the dean searches for the CALPS, that is the College of Agricultural, Life and Physical Sciences. There were 5 finalists, and that feedback from everyone has come through. We are in the process of making some final decisions. So maybe in a week's time, we'll have some answers. For the College of Health and Human Sciences, yesterday was the last interview. So the the feedback will come in by the end of this week, by Friday. And so then next week, we would review all of that and then make some final decisions. In the College of Arts and Media, which was like an internal search, there were 3 candidates, and 1 candidate has been offered the position. And then in terms of like your faculty hires, so for this year, about 25 faculty hires were approved. There are at least a handful that are still in the asking for this, and the negotiation is going on for a couple more. But I think so far, I would say at least 20 have come through so far. I don't have the latest total, but at least 20 have come through. There were 25 that were approved.
Thank you. Any follow-up question for her?
I have a question in terms of like a faculty hire. So you approved the 20 so far, and you're saying you're going to approve 5 more.
25 had been, like you approved them like a year in advance, and every unit goes and finds their people. So out of the 25 that were approved, 20 have been secured.
I see.
So those have been completed, the person signed, and so,
so how about like for 22? I was wondering.
So for fall 22, the chancellor has determined that the faculty lines will stay in the colleges starting July 1. I have asked the deans before, and I asked them like a week ago, saying that before your faculty go out, get them to start thinking about what lines they want to sort of replace and so on. But then you don't always know all of the lines, because people might wait till like May 30th to tell you on May 31st, I'm retiring or resigning. And sometimes, it happens a little bit later. So by the time you get all the information and figure out, and then the deans would submit their requests. We have to keep in mind that there may be a college where there are no retirements and resignations. Let's say hypothetically, College of Health and Human Science, but that's where the growth is. And if aviation says, hey, if you give me 1 more line, I can double the section, because otherwise I'm turning students away because we cannot admit them, we cannot teach them. So then what do I do? If a college has no retirements and resignations, another one has 5, and they want to replace all 5. So then I have to be the bad person and say, no, you cannot get 5, you can get 3, because 2 we have to give over here this year, and the next day you can get. So that is going to be the practice going forward.
Do you have any update about state budget?
State budget, at last that we heard, we're expecting it to be flat. So we are feeling a little bit better about that. And so now we want enrollment to be either flat or up, actually up, but it shouldn't go down.
Okay.
I ask about that actually as a follow-up. So are we likely to turn around our enrollment finally this coming year? Because we had a lot of large graduating classes to get out of the data in the previous year, which is why we were still down last year. We had a 31% improvement in our freshman class. We were still down, almost 3% because of the So is that trend now likely to be in our favor?
So, just to reiterate the facts is that our freshman class was up about 30%.
Right.
And still we were overall down like 2.8%.
That's right.
And that's because of, the continuing students, how many came back.
Right.
So we hope, so also keep in mind, like our retention was 80.6%. So whatever the freshman class was before, we brought 80% back. Now the drop from freshman to sophomore is like 20%, that's why it's 80%.
Sure.
But then after that, it's even steeper. How many we lose every year is even steeper. So this is
because the graduation rate over 6 years is abysmal.
Yes, so it's not even that they're not. So it's not like you're losing graduating classes. You're just losing students.
Sure.
So that is the future work. So we are focused on bringing big classes, keeping them 1 year. Now we have to do the work on the other end. So what we are aiming for is that because we are asking everybody to really boost that freshman class, try to bring everybody back, we are hoping that maybe we will, at least that 2.8%, we can reduce that a little bit, even if it's flat enrollment. But we are not satisfied with that. We are aiming for like 12,000.
Okay.
Okay. Mira, do you have any final comments before time is up?
No, I just want to thank you all for your questions, because all the questions that you're asking is what I think about 24 hours in a day. So you're like actually tapping into my soul, I felt.
Okay.
But just to echo what Shane said about you several months ago, you are the most data-driven provost I've ever had the pleasure to have on this university campus, and I've been here 14 years now. So
well, I hope it is something that is appreciated or welcome, because I live in that world with all these numbers all the time.
No, well, I think it took us many years to get into where we are with enrollment. We're not going to get out of where we were overnight, but I'm encouraged by how proactive we're being, that you and other people in admissions are about it. When I was interviewing with Patrick, those 4 finalists for the vice chancellor position, they all were very oodled. They all were had so much innovative ideas, each of them, that they wanted to share. And I felt like each of them could get the ball rolling tomorrow. And that was really impressive, that all 4 of them were impressive candidates.
So just like in terms of final comment, let me just say a few things, just simply having been on this campus for 25 plus years. I was for 10 years, the undergraduate program director in psychology, and all I did was recruit psych majors and try to retain them and make them successful. So in all of the years that I've been there, there was always that feeling like, oh, is there some like magical thing that you have to be successful in terms of enrollment? And having gone through what I've gone through in the last 3 years, I can tell you that there is really nothing like magical. Like sometimes you look at someone who's very successful or a university that's very successful and you think like, oh, they may know something that we don't know. But the fact that we were able to bring in a freshman class that was 30% higher, when nationally the freshman classes were 16% down, indicates to me that I don't think there is something magical that we don't know. I think we know what it is, but we have to do it more fully and more leverage it completely. And I think the fact that Patrick asking, like, can we get trained? I mean, we're already there. We're already heading in the right direction. So I feel very encouraged. So when people ask me, like, why do you want to do this job? And don't you get, defeated by it? I feel like, no, because this is the excitement of figuring it out and like,
you also have to have a marketable product. And one of the things I think for years, I hope we'll do better. Again, my 14 years here, I hope we'll do a lot better. We tend to talk down to our feet half the time, more than half the time. We don't brag about what's good about SIU. So let me finish with a final comment on this, which is now that we are schools, and 32 of them, maybe it's 33, I don't know. 33, so magical.
Forestry and horticulture has.
Right, yeah. So 33, so we're a magical 33. I would hope that we really start emphasizing that niche quality. You're going to come to SIU, it's a school structure, you're going to have the breadth of vision, the breadth of scholarship at your feet. And I would think, how do we market that? And how do we make the most of that? Because we're in a buyer's market. The falling birth rate in the United States, nationwide, affects us. It's the population decline in the state of Illinois really affects us. Those are headwinds we're facing. So how do we then maximize potential of what we just went through for 4 years? We're reorganized academically. How does that then become a marketing strategy?
Yeah, I think that, the program specific kind of marketing that we are investing in, we can do it more sort of strategically and take it forward.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your wonderful questions. Thank you, Dr. Milgram Raju, for you being here and very helpful. And the data you sent to us last night are very informative. And it's almost time. I would like, unless you have a very last question, otherwise we would like to have a motion to adjourn the meeting, unless you have the last one. Really, you think it's important. I do not want to go over 1 more minute, okay?
I moved to adjourn.
I second to adjourn.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.